Trimming your weed the right way can be the difference between mid-grade and premium bud. Come on, let's go over the best techniques of what to and what not to do. Hey, but before we do, today's video is brought to you by Real Growers Recharge. If you want stronger, healthier plants, if you want bigger roots for better fruits, you gotta check out Real Growers Recharge. It's like an instant compost tea that holds more nutrients at your root zone, breaks those nutrients down, and makes them more plant available, getting more of your nutrients into your plants. Find out more about Recharge over at realgrowers.com. And while you're there, use coupon code Scotty420 to get 20% off your first order. Now let's get back to the show. All right, come on, Hi C, you want to get into this one?
Yeah, man, this is like, for me, it's, we put all this hard work, get into harvest, and this is the last cherry on top, or it could be the thing that just completely ruins all that hard work.
Yeah, there is definitely a right way and a wrong way to trim. The wrong way, you'll have a mess and really compromise your harvest.
Okay, so I heard this from you yesterday, and this was the first time I ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Wet trimming, this is something people actually do?
Sure, man. You go cut the plants down, and instead of hanging them, you start trimming them. Oh, man, look at the sugar, man.
Just trim them right away.
Yeah, just trim them right away. I mean, it's not illogical.
And then you were telling me about a screen method that people do?
Yeah. People will just take their scissors and just cut them right off the, what are you looking for? You're looking for buds, right? You get excited, you grew your buds, and so you take them and you put them on a screen or you put them on some newspaper on the floor and you dry them out, and then we're going to smoke them in 3 days, right?
Okay, so the first thing that goes through my head is that's going to taste like crap.
Hey, could you imagine what life was like before the internet, man? When you didn't know this stuff.
Okay, I'm privileged because I came in and you helped me out right away, but this is real. This is what people used to do.
Definitely.
Okay, so that's wet trimming. What is dry trimming? And let's give people tips on how to get the best buds out of a dry trim.
Sure. I mean, this is pretty easy. We're cutting the branches off. We're going in there, we're cutting as large of branches as we can, and we're thinking about all that moisture that is in that branch that is going to transfer to those buds, and let them dry slow. We want these things to dry as slow as possible. 10 days minimum, 2 weeks if you can. Let's see. We don't think it's a separate video, but that's the idea. So the more water holding plant material you have, whether it's some of the foliage or in the stem, the bigger water reservoir it has. So it's going to dry slower, taste better.
Okay, let's talk about that, because I'm
Sure.
thinking when you explained the screen method, just cut it off right there, let the bud sit on the screen.
Yes.
That's going to dry out in a couple of days.
2-3 days, it's dry.
You're saying you want that branch to hold it while it's drying.
Sure.
Keep that moisture in there. Why is that moisture important?
That's what's going to keep the drying going for 7 or 10 days, however long you can do it. If you put it in 60%, 60% humidity, 60 degrees, it takes 10, 14 days for it to dry. In that time, there's like metabolic processes that stay happening that are going to, God, I think they're converting chlorophyll. It's a little bit above my pay grade, man. But that's what makes your cannabis smoother.
Okay, because I have smoked stuff that was dried too fast.
Sure.
Not even 3 days, like 5 days. And it tasted kind of like hay, kind of.
Yeah, a week is that's the minimum where I've tasted good tasting weed before. But yeah, there's metabolic processes that happen in the foliage and the leaf, in the plant material, I'll say, and it takes a little while, more than 3 days for it to break down.
And so your trim is kind of a two-step. While you're having it hang, you trim a little bit of the leaf off before you hang it, and then you leave some leaf on there as well?
Yeah, I want to take those giant water leaves, they're called, the giant fan leaves, because they're going to go over the bud and make contact with the bud, and you got now wet on wet, which is, you can get bud molds, things like that, so you really want to be careful of that.
So you get rid of those big ones.
When I'm trimming dry, I'll just cut the giant water leaves off. Definitely don't cut it off the stem, so a dry trimming party, that's an easy one.
Okay, and then so you let it sit for a while, and then you do a final trim where you're going and getting all of those extra leaves off.
Yeah, let it sit for a while. That's we hang it in a controlled environment, and maybe 10 days later, then we'll do our final trim. And you'll be surprised, man. The final trim when everything's covered in sugar. It's a little bit different than a trim when everything's wet. Just a little bit different.
And one thing that you were telling me about is the potential to squish or completely ruin, crush all those trichomes.
Yeah, the trichomes are oil. They're mostly oil soluble. There's not a lot of water in them, so you're not actually drying out the trichomes, but you're drying out that plant material. And if anybody that's touched, properly dried bud, it's not super squishy. The same way when you pull a bud off the, off the plant, very squishy. So the plant material will squish the trichomes and get them to break. Those little bubbles break and oxidize off.
You lose a bunch of potency that way.
Yeah, so handling wet weed, you want to handle that very carefully, and I'm always trying to handle it to a minimum. I take the biggest branch I can, I cut the water leaves off, and then I hang it. Keeping it clean.
All right, let's talk about equipment for a little bit.
Sure.
You recommend having some dedicated scissors that
Yes.
you only use for trimming.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that's a real bummer is cross-contamination. When you it's very easy, go to the shed and get some loppers or get some trimmers that your wife is using for the garden beds. And those things can be loaded with pathogens, with molds, mildews.
You don't want to be bringing that into your...
No. So have your scissors where they're your grow room scissors. They stay either in the grow or in the drying area, probably in your drying area. Don't go running around. Cleanliness is a big deal here. You can contaminate these buds. They're soaking wet, and you're about to hang them in a dry environment at 60% humidity environment for weeks in the dark. Yeah, you want to make sure you're not giving them any starter material.
Okay, and then you mentioned scissors. I've made this mistake where I just grabbed some sewing scissors and oh my gosh, I think I got arthritis doing it that way.
These are just regular scissors. I got them from the junk drawer. But man, there's a lot of resistance on here. I couldn't imagine doing this, I don't know how many, 5,000 times or something.
Yeah.
So that's why every grower knows about Fisker scissors right there.
And they got a little spring to kick them back open after you squeeze.
Yeah. And by the way, there's the titanium, the black ones when you're growing for that long. I like the titanium ones. But by the way, the best thing about Fisker scissors is scissor hash. After you trim these for, I don't know, every half hour, 45 minutes.
They're just coated.
Yeah. And it is the craziest hash you've ever smoked, man.
So how do you do that?
You just get a razor blade and you scrape it right off there. You'll see when you clean them. And then put these in alcohol. After you scrape them, you throw them. You always have a little jar of alcohol there. That's how you can tell how long people have been growers, how many Fiskers they got hanging around. I probably got 12 more. But have another pair sitting in alcohol.
Ready to go.
Yep. And that way you're also not cross-contaminating. If one of those buds does have some molds or mildews, every plant, I clean my scissors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. The other thing that I know from trimming is sometimes 2 or 3 days later, I can still smell it. Even if I'm using gloves, I can still smell it on myself.
That's a good one, is when you're trimming, you're not working in your grow. You're kind of going outside of that comfort zone. So in the grow, I've got my air filter. I know I've got my smell contained. When I go bring 5 pounds of wet bud into the other room, it stinks up the house. It stinks up out front of the house. I've had my friend come in before and be like, holy crap, man. I'm like, dude, it smells down the street. Yeah, it's not good. So having an extra carbon filter, if you need to relocate your carbon filter, just bring your one out of the grow. But condition and clean that air, man. You don't want your neighbors. That's the time you can really give it away that you're a grower is during harvest.
And so you just put a carbon filter and have it scrub the air in the room that you're trimming in?
Yep. And worst comes to worst, if you don't have a huge budget, go grab the one out of your grow. It's only what's it going to be for a day or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. So if you do have a huge budget, I've seen these automatic trimming machines, and I wanted to get what's rotary trimmers, I think is what they're called.
There's a bunch of them. I think of these things as an air conditioner has that blade. I guess it pulls air up through there. Imagine it's doing that the other way where it's sucking air down and you put your bud over it. Now imagine if that fan blade was within 1/4 of an inch of the grate. It's basically just pinching or cutting off the leaf material. So it certainly is not as gentle as doing this. This is my art. You know what I mean? So I want to do this with my art. I don't want to run it across the top of an air conditioner. But if you know, if you got 100 pounds or 200, or if you're an outdoor grower that has 2,000 pounds, I can see justifying using it.
And using those still leaves at least enough quality trichomes on those buds to where they can be sold still, or
To be sold? Sure, sure.
but
Do
not
I want to
enjoyed.
be? Yeah. Do I want to be showing them off to my friends? Machine finished bud does have a very specific look to it. Almost all the foliage is gone, and yeah, I don't necessarily like that, man. I got little roll cages on my bud.
And when I go to the dispensary is when I see bud that looks like
Absolutely.
it went through something like that.
Absolutely. And think about it, man. The trichomes can break and shake off. That's how they make some hash. So if you've got this dry weed rolling around there, there's going to be some trichome damage.
Okay, all of that excess stuff though that's falling off,
Right.
do they repurpose it? Do they do something with it, or
I'm
just
sure
lose
it's
it?
I'm sure it's low level hash, or maybe it's good hash, man. Scissor scrapings is great hash as far as I'm concerned. I'm not really sure, but I will say it's got to damage the trichomes. I'm positive it damages the trichomes. These are little tiny balls of oil on this little stick, you know. So running it across what looks like an air conditioning grate, it definitely, put it this way, they can scrape the blades and get hash off it. So that should tell you that those trichomes are being, you know, beaten up. Hey, those are just my tips for getting the best out of your harvest when it comes to trimming. But what about you? You got any secrets? Let me know in the comments. And if you dug this video, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, share this video with another grower you know, and check out the other couple of videos YouTube's recommended. I think you'll dig them.